Let's go to the West Coast, Vancouver, and join Simon Fudge, our soccer analyst, here on the program. How are you, Simon?
I'm good. It's obviously very sad news. I was really shocked to hear that news about Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, I'm looking out. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Vancouver. We're going to have a really nice weekend here. You got obviously Touchdown Pacific just over at Royal Athletic Park in Victoria, which is one of the great Canadian soccer venues historically where they're playing. But that was just really sad to hear that news today.
It was a tough way to start the show today. It was a tough way to wake up, but and obviously it's not going away. But it's still going to be a great weekend when it comes to the Canadian Football League. It's going to be a great weekend in Canada, Labor Day weekend, and we've got to some great stuff today. But something we haven't talked about is Soccer Canada in a little while here since the Olympics. And great that we have you on today on a Football Friday. So we'll talk that kind of football. What's the latest on dronegate and Bev Priestman, the Olympic fallout?
Well, myself and I think a lot of people in Canadian soccer right now are sort of sitting on our hands waiting to see what the findings of an independent review that was administered by Canada Soccer is going to ultimately bring. That's where we're at right now. Bev Priestman is obviously suspended from her role as head coach of the Canadian women's national team. And I think it's probably safe to say she won't be returning. And so we're really in this situation of waiting to see what this report's going to bring. The problem that we have is we don't know what the timeline is with the process of that. Is it going to take a matter of weeks or months, or is it something that's going to carry on into the new year? And of course, the wide implications with it in terms of the various people it could bring in to it is the thing that everyone's sort of talking about, especially when you look at the various reports and very good reporting around the time of the Olympics by Rick Westhead that's potentially implicating the likes of Toronto FC head coach John Herdman with all of this. People are kind of cringing for what could be coming from this because you already get a sense already by what's been reported that we're dealing with something in terms of the spying on opposition that has been a cultural thing within the national team programs when both Bev Priestman and, John Herdman used to be there and Bev Priestman has been in the program, and that's been a systematic thing. So that's really where we're at right now. And what that all reveals is what we're anticipating.
You mentioned John Herdman. What is the latest there, and what do we think his involvement is? I believe he came out and denied this, and still the head coach, with Toronto FC. But is it over?
No, I would say it's not. And I think he attempted to deny it, much like how Bev Priestman right in the immediate aftermath of the Olympics tried to deny. And I didn't find, and I think a lot of people didn't find his answers to be wholly satisfactory. His situation is a very precarious one. I don't envy Toronto SC and by extension Major League Soccer with this situation because if the evidence shows and proves that particularly during his time with Canada Soccer when he was either women's national team head coach or men's national team head coach, that this was a practice that they were using and that proves to bear itself out. And that evidence out there is very strong to the extent that it ends up garnering the interest of World Soccer's governing body, FIFA, to potentially look into further discipline with it, because that's one of the potential things that could come from the findings of this report. Canada Soccer under Kevin Blue have committed to saying we're gonna put this report out in its full, without any kind of redaction, so that everybody could see it. And if it potentially looks like it's got something to it, where there's evidence there and that there's much the case to answer for, it's not a great position for him to be in, and it puts Toronto FC in a very awkward spot. So
is this the Jim Harbaugh situation? Where he goes to the NFL and he's in MLS now, and the sanctions come in, from international play, and maybe he ends up with a 1, 2, 3 year ban from international competition, but he's already at MLS.
That's very much the thing. I mean, Bev Priestman was sanctioned by FIFA. She's been banned for a whole year from any kind of soccer activity worldwide. So it denies her being able to do her current job or to be able to go work at another job anywhere else in the world. at any level. That would be the same thing. FIFA, if they were to lay down a ban or suspension of that kind on, say, let's say they do so on someone like John Herdt or anybody else, they would be denied the ability to work in MLS or any other league. Could be the Canadian Premier League, doesn't matter what it is. They would not be able to do anything in terms of soccer activity. And that potentially could be the thing that Herdman could face if the evidence ultimately shows and proves that he had some overseeing of some of these allegations. I mean, right now we have to kind of treat it as allegations, but it's going to be another thing entirely is if we find that very same examples being the findings of this report. And that puts Toronto SC in a really, really tough spot. I don't think we'll have anything occur between now and the end of Toronto SC season. They're still in a chance to make the playoffs. They're going to play the Vancouver Whitecaps here later this month in Vancouver in the Canadian Championship final. But it's probably after that you might need to somewhat anticipate what decision might need to be made, because the MLS offseason is such a short turnaround. And going into 2025, you've got training camp starting by the end of January, and then the new season starts by the beginning of March. The worst case scenario with this whole situation and this review is if it ends up dragging itself out into the first quarter of 2025, and then all of that kind of findings is revealed sort of January, February time, and it ends up putting TFC in such an awkward spot. Well, then they're in a situation where they've got a head coach that there may be a decision they have to make, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, who own the team, and they're in the middle of trying to get ready for a new season. So from a timing point of view, there's probably a lot more urgency. And that's why I wonder a little bit if they're even trying to find out themselves as a club, as MLSE, with Keith Pelly at the very top of it, and Jason Hernandez, the general manager, who would be reporting to him, because as we know, Bill Manning got moved on from his role as president of not just TFC, but the Argos last month. If they're already sort of trying to get their ducks in a row about how they're going to deal with this situation, and they would be dealing also with a lot of pressure from Major League Soccer, from MLS. MLS does not like negative press of any kind that involves anything with their teams, their players, anyone who represents them. So I would say that they're equally as concerned as probably MLSC and TFC are, and where it goes with all this is quite something. I think on the Canada soccer front, I don't see Bev Priestman coming back. There are three reasons for me why she can't come back. The scandal alone, and I think her culpability that will likely end up proving to be the case in it. The fact that she's also lost the players, that the relationship between her and the players even going into the Olympics didn't sound from the looks of it to be very healthy. And what took it over the edge was the scandal and just the emotional state that it put the players in during the tournament. And obviously they went out at the quarterfinal stage of the Paris Olympics. And then the third reason is that under her, they in this last cycle of tournaments, World Cup, Women's World Cup last year in particular, they didn't get results. So I think there's a reason there for Canada Soccer to make a change, give the program a fresh start. But they've also got to think about making sure that they can get the integrity of the program back, because there's been questions asked of it and the players and everyone that is involved on the scandal. So where this goes, it can go in a whole kind of different set of directions, but you can already get a sense that we're going to have a can of worms potentially opened up here once this independent review has come to a completion.
Only got a minute here left, but I wanted to ask you, a hell of a year for Kevin Blue to come into the new job and then be lobbed this grenade. How has he handled it, and how have you assessed Kevin Blue's first little bit on the job?
Very, very good. Met with him actually very briefly on Monday at the launch for Vancouver Rise, which is the new pro women's soccer team that will be part of the Northern Super League here that starts next year. And he was at the event. I've been very impressed with him, and I'm very thankful that Canada Soccer have been able to get someone like him in and deal with these leadership things. I think the fact that he has taken such an immediate approach to this particular scandal and administering an independent review shows to me that he's got a level of experience in leadership of how to deal with these situations. Because if he'd not been there, this could have been a situation where Canada Soccer would probably take a lot more time to figure out what they were going to ultimately do. But he has been very out front with everything. His transparency has been really good since he's come in. in terms of what to do. And the other major thing that he had to do right away was appoint a new head coach for the men's national team, which ended up being Jesse March. And that's looking to be a very good appointment by the way the team played through June in the Copa America. They've got 2 friendlies coming up here in September against the U.S. and Mexico down stateside as they build towards the World Cup they're co-hosting here in 26. So I've been very, very impressed with him. And I think in some ways the Canadian soccer community should feel very thankful that he's been put in the position of CEO and General Secretary of Canada Soccer, because even just on the scandal alone, I think he's taken the right approach, shown real leadership, and I think he deserves the support that he can potentially get from everyone concerned, because I think we've got a good leader there, and at this point in time, it's absolutely critical that you have someone in place with everything that's coming up over the next little while.
Simon, appreciate this. We covered a lot of ground. Pretty comprehensive update. Thank you.
You're welcome. Speak soon.
Have a great weekend. Simon Fudge joining us, and a phenomenal update on all things Canadian soccer and the latest with Canada Soccer.